Now that we have the foundations in place, it's now time to practice it. And this section was designed so you can follow along with me, and you get a much better idea of how the PPF kit will actually work. In this section, we'll be covering 3 things. The first one is going to be testing your solutions to make sure you have the right mix. The second is going to be learning how to stretch. And lastly, we're actually going to be installing a mirror so you can get a much better idea of how the rest of the install is going to go. In the practice kit, you're going to grab the roll labeled A, and we're going to be using this to make sure that you have your slip solution mixed correctly. So grab your roll right here, and we're going to grab your mixed slip solution, and we're going to just spray the outer layer, okay? And then we're going to spray the fender part. I mean, you could do it in other parts, but I just recommend here because we're going to test if it's slipping downwards or if it stays there. As you're peeling, it's the hardest part of the test kit. You're going to go ahead and spray some slip solution and go ahead and finish peeling that. And what you're going to do is just place it on here. And the first thing we're going to be doing is, does it move? And you can see that at all parts of this, every area is moving. The next test that we're going to be doing is we're just going to leave it here, and we're going to wait 30 seconds. All right, so that's 30 seconds roughly. And what you're going to be doing is we're going to check that it didn't dry out. So you can see that even after 30 seconds, I have no problem moving this. Again, let me show you if this is a bad solution. And I'm going to use actually some of my Tack. So I'm going to go ahead and spray some Tack here. So if your solution doesn't have enough slip, and the 5 ml is your starting point, okay? And some areas you might need a little bit more slip, like areas that have a lot more humidity and it's really, really hot. You notice that when I move this isn't moving. It has a very difficult time. And if I actually move this middle part, it's not moving at all. This part, you hear that noise right there? It's having difficulty moving because there's not enough slip solution. I did it with the Tack solution just to kind of demonstrate that. But if you feel that, you definitely need a little bit more slip. And what I recommend doing is adding it little by little. So I would add 1 ml and then another ml until you get what I showed you just earlier. Lastly, if you have too much slip solution, it's going to be a lot harder for you because everything is going to want to come down. So this is a really good demonstration because there's some angle. I'm going to go ahead. I have another bottle. This is actually different from my other solution. I'm going to go ahead and spray a lot of soap underneath this section. I'm going to go ahead and spray here as well. You can see that it's foaming up a lot. And if you have too much slip, this is what it'll look like. You see, I put this down, and it's coming down on its own like this. That's way too much slip, right? And it's just, again, this is going to be very hard because it's not staying, and it's just wanting to come down on its own. And that's how you tell. If this happens, you're not going to be able to just grab this and just pour it out. So instead, what you want to do is, what I would recommend is to start all over and just filling up a new bottle and going a little bit lower. Same thing with earlier, go down 1 ml, and you want to keep doing that until you get the desired effect where it's not either, grabbing right away or just so much slip that it's just going down like that. And that's how you tell if you have the right slip solution. So now that we have the slip solution and the Tack solution mixed, and we've tested it in the piece A that you've used, we're going to teach you how to stretch. PPF can actually stretch 10 to 15%. And if you think about this, which is about a 12-inch strip, it could go about 2 inches max. But you really don't want to push that to the limit. So let me just show you exactly what I mean. So you're going to grab the B piece, and you're going to go ahead and spray some slip solution into this area. And for this practice module, it's going to be the same for Model S, Model 3, Model Y, really Model X, really anything out there, because the fog lights are very similar. And if you don't have a fog light that's similar like this, you could just find an edge that where you could use as a reference, and that's all you're doing for this exercise. Once you have this set up and you got some slip solution right on here, what you're going to do is you're going to peel your piece B and go ahead and peel it all the way. And we're going to go ahead and spray some slip solution, and you're going to just lay it down like so. Like I mentioned, what you're trying to do right here is you're trying to line it up to kind of this fog light and then make sure it goes up, because you're going to use this about how much you've actually stretched. So right now, this piece of PPF is completely, I guess, stretchless. There's no stretch at all. I really like this practice because you can see that there's actually a curvature and it's creating this fingers. And when you stretch across a certain area like this, those fingers will go away. I'll go ahead and tack this section, right? Because we're going to be using this as a reference. We're going to go ahead and tack this section. So I got my tack solution. Go ahead and flush out all my slip right there. We're going to go ahead and just spray a little bit of slip on top. And we're going to go ahead and tack this section. And look at that. We got it tacked pretty good. All right. So when you do this section, it's really important to get a good amount of tack. If you just have this area right here, it might be too little and eventually this will fall. But you can see right now, I used tack right here and I've tacked it where this is not moving at all. However, this is moving. So before I get into this, let me show you exactly what not to do first, and then I'll show you how, like what you actually need to do. So you can see right here, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this. I'm gonna try to not cover the camera. I'm gonna pull this and just stretch it really, really hard. So you can see that when I let go, watch what happens. You can see there's an amount of stretch right here in the corners. And what's gonna happen is eventually it will pull back. So when I let this go, look how much it pulls back, but it kind of deformed it a little bit, right, over here. And that's what I mean by pullback. So when you do this, look at this. You see how it comes back? That's what a pullback is. So when you're actually stretching, we got point A and point B right here. You're not trying to stretch right in this section, okay? You're trying to stretch this section. If you stretch the edge, you're gonna have a high risk. Most likely it will pull back. That's just how PPF reacts. So instead, we use something called the palm technique. So you're gonna hold it with your whole hand and you're gonna just move it. And your indicators, you see these fingers right here? You're trying to see if you can make that go away. And this is about 12 inches, right? Your piece for B is gonna be about 12 inches, and we're gonna try to make sure, we're gonna try to stretch it about half an inch, maybe to an inch or so, okay? So now that we have that set, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna practice, okay? Use your hand and look at this. You're gonna move it across, and I have no fingers in the top, okay? And you can see that I've barely stretched it, okay? I'm not even stretching it that much, okay? Maybe like 1/4 of an inch, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and use some tack solution in the edges. And we're gonna do the same thing. Use 2 hands. I'm gonna stretch it pretty heavily. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it on the ends just for a few seconds. And then I'm gonna use some squeegee right here to squeegee it down. And you can see here, when I stretched it, you know it's stretching because look at the way the water is, right? It's stretching, so it's kind of like making the water go like this way, this horizontal, okay? So now that we have A, B tacked down, right? You got A and B tacked down. You can now move all the, I guess in this case you could go up, but we can move all the slip solution that's underneath down into an exit point. And you can see that there's not going to be a pullback. Just for, I guess, demonstration purposes, I want to show you what happens if we go too far with this. So let's go ahead and just spray a lot of slip right here. And I'm going to stretch this as much as I can. Okay, and if you stretch too much, what happens? So here we go. I'm going to just, oh man. Okay, that's a lot more than that first time. Okay, I stretched so much and I did it so wrong, right, on purpose. I stretched it this way, right? And when you do that, this part stretched, but not the middle stretched. So when that happened, it created this finger right here. And this is gonna be really hard to go because you can see that the material stretched this way, but what's happening here, it creates fingers like this. So This is what you don't want to do. So let's go ahead and get that back. And look at the pullback right here when I get it back. You see that moving? And it kind of goes back to its original state. There you go. And you can see it's slightly deformed over here, but for the most part, it did go back to the original state. I'm going to do this one more time to do it right. Again, I'm trying to get rid of all these fingers, right? Because you're trying to stretch this middle section instead of the edge. In all our kits, we provide like where the tack points are, where the slip, where you need to squeegee out and stuff like that. But one thing that you really have to remember is when you tack an area like this, you never want to go back to this area. Because what tack does is tack pretty much seals that area. So when I do this, look at what happens. You see, it doesn't want to go back. But when you do it, because you did, you actually created some sort of a line right here. Because that area is completely sealed. So same thing right here. I'm going to go back to the tacked area. Look what's happening. It doesn't want to go, and it's trying to find somewhere else. And what's going to happen is going to create bubbles in this area. Okay? So you cannot go back to where you tacked. So instead of doing that, you want to go outwards, right? And then go down to the middle. And then again, this is where I tacked. And then you want to exit where you didn't tack. But once you're done, we want to make sure that we go over it twice. So in the videos that we talk about, we're always going to do this for the most part. And we're going to go back to where we were. And then once you inspect it, and then you look at that there's no bubbles, there's nothing going on, you're going to do something called edge seal, right? So you're going to grab all the edges, and you're going to just make sure that all the edges are completely sealed. Just like that. And what this does is the A and B were the only areas that were tacked. So what that means is these areas, we just had slip and we just squeegeed it, right? So because it's not permanently tacked, what happens is this water right here, especially like the headlight area, it sits right here, especially in the 3 and the Y, right? It just sits here and then it just slowly comes down into this area. Over time, what's going to happen is you're going to have a giant bubble right here. So when you seal it, it's not going to be able to do that. Now that you've learned how to stretch properly, you'll be better equipped for the next section. And for the last section, it's going to be about how to do your driver's mirror. And don't worry, you don't have to have it exactly like fully prepped, but you do want it pretty clean. And you're going to learn exactly how the course is going to work and how it's going to play out. So take your time. The C practice kit is literally just for practice. So we are going to ask you after you're done, even though it might be perfect, to take it off and then do it again, since it might not be properly prepped with the right solution. So if you have no problem with A, B, and C, and especially with C, you have no problem doing that, then you're going to be fine with the whole kit. So we're going to go ahead and show you the mirror module, and we'll see you in the next section. In this section, we're going to be talking about how we're going to do the mirror PPF. And it's not as easy as it looks. However, with the practice kit and the training that you've been getting, you should be just fine. But if you look at the reference guide, the way it's going to work is there's 2 pieces to this mirror. There's going to be an A piece that goes all the way to the bottom. And the way you're going to be doing that is you're going to tack this, use that as alignment point, tack the other side right here, and then align this edge and get all the water out. And then after that, this one just lays flat and align to the piece A. And that's how we're going to be doing the mirror. Before we get started, make sure you're washing your hands. And if you haven't, go ahead and refill your slip and tack solution. But we're going to go ahead and spray our mirror and just grab the squeegee. I got the 2L in this case. And you're just going to get the water out. Again, this is the last level of, I guess, defense. If there's any contamination sitting, this process is going to get that out. We're going to go ahead and make sure we spray a lot of slip solution around the area. For this PPF, we're going to be using the 2S. I like using this because we're working with a smaller area, and I do like the angled. So we have our sheet here, and just like all our sheets, it's always going to be labeled. So in this case, it says P right here for passenger, D for driver, and there's the A pieces right next to each other, and you got the B pieces over here. In our case, we're going to be using the driver's side, so you can see that we're going to get started by peeling that area. Before you do, Make sure your fingers are wet. And we're just going to spray the top of the film as well. This was a very small piece, so it's going to be significantly easier than all the other ones that you've been dealing with. So go ahead and peel that section, and then it'll just come out like so. And as you're doing it, we're going to make sure that we're putting enough slip solution and just go all the way. And then you're just going to grab it, and you're just going to place it on the mirror like so. And immediately, you're going to notice some wrinkles right away, right? Because you need to stretch this. But before we get there, let's go ahead and talk about how we're going to tack this area. So the alignment point is fairly simple. You got this edge over here and this edge. As long as those edges are good, we are good to go. I'm pretty happy about this, and before we get started, let's go ahead and do the shimmy shimmy, making sure that everything is moving, and that is fantastic. There you go. You got this edge, and this is what I'm looking for right about here, right? So notice, oh, I moved it a little bit. So notice how it's still inside the edge, and we're going to be doing the finger test, and you can run your finger like so. If it catches like this, and it's catching, that means it's too overboard. So this is about where I want to be. So let me show you again, and notice I'm just moving the material in place like so. Pretty happy with that. Nice edge right there. Once you're good, you're going to go ahead and peel and spray some Tack solution and just move the material. You have some time, and just make sure that it stays aligned. And once it does, what I like to do is I just hold it for about 5 to 10 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I feel good about it, I'm going to go ahead and use my squeegee, and you're going to push out all of that water into the area, and really use that corner to get it. And look at that line right there. Very, very good alignment. Very happy with that. Very happy with that alignment right there. And this is the area that you're going to be tacking. So once this is tacked, you just make sure that it is tacked, and you could feel it. Nothing's moving, right? So we are really good to go. We're going to tack the other side, but we're going to be stretching that material across. We're going to make sure that there's enough slip solution, just like that, and we're going to check the shimmy shimmy. And you can see that it moves very freely, and that's exactly what we want. So if you look at the guide, what we wanted to do is we've already tacked here, and we want to tack over here, and we want to get rid of all this wrinkles. You're going to use your palm and start from here at the middle right here. You want to stretch this part. You're going to move this material until you can see that the bottom right here, the fingers are starting to go away. And that's when you know you've stretched enough. So now that you know about the stretching, again, I stretch in the middle, not at the ends. Once you're ready, we're going to go ahead and actually put some Tack solution right there. So we're going to peel back, and we're going to flush out the slip solution in that area. And you could be a little bit more generous with it. You're just going to push this down, and we're going to move this until I got my fingers out. And if you notice that Tack immediately grabbed, right? And once it grabs, it just stays like that. These fingers are actually totally fine. They will go away. So if it's a much bigger than this, that's when you know you should probably try again. So I'm going to go ahead and spray some slip solution and go ahead and tack this edge. And you can see my alignment over here is perfect. It's inside those edges right there. I feel very happy about this alignment. Go ahead and squeegee this out. Cool. And in this area over here, I'm going to go ahead and spray more Tack solution. And this is why I love this small one, right? Compared to using the bigger squeegee. It's just a lot easier to work with in smaller areas like this. So I got all this tacked right over here. So for number 3 and 4, you're going to be splitting this in half and then checking your alignment. This looks good to me. While checking your alignment, you're going to bring all this down. That's number 3. And then number 4 would be to push this up like so. And there's a small wrinkle right there. And notice how it just kind of comes out. We want to spray your slip solution, and we're going to do that one more time, just making sure that we get all bubbles elsewhere out. And go down again and up, going away from that tack point. Great. So now that we've double checked, we're going to tackle this one right here. Just spray some tack solution. Let it sit for a bit. You're going to do the push technique. Just hold it right there. Kind of knife it and go side to side. And notice how it just sat down very easily. Go ahead and use tack solution here again. Let that sit. You're going to use the push technique using the 2 fingers. Great. I got that. And then lastly, there's a little bit of fingers here. I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that. Once you have that, you're just going to hold it down. Same thing here. Great. So before we move on, we're going to do what I always do with each panel that I squeegee, is we're going to grab a clean microfiber, and we're just going to be looking at it again. And look for areas that have big bubbles, and this is the opportunity at this point to remove it if you have to. I see some persistent areas, and this is where I'm actually going to be using the technique that I've showed you before in the practice kit. And you're going to put your squeegee with the microfiber, and all you want to do is just grab it, the finger, and just hold it. And what this is doing is it's absorbing all that water so it doesn't come back up. Same thing over here, right? Remember, you're not dragging the material though, you're just sucking up the moisture. Same thing over here. And you can see this does an incredible job of getting rid of fingers. So lastly, we are good, but remember that we are going to be seaming right here. So we just want to make sure that all our edges are good, and we're going to be sealing the edges one more time with some of the tack solution. So we're going to go ahead and just get the edges one more time, and this really seals the edges. Just making sure. And then I'm going to go ahead and wipe it down and look at it one more time. Awesome. So I'm very happy with this. All my edges are good and sealed and ready to go. Let's go ahead and grab the second piece. So the B piece is the same. There is going to be a peeling point right here next to that B. And we are, again, doing the driver's side. So we're going to make sure that we peel the correct one. Once you peel, as you're peeling, make sure you're spraying enough slip solution. And there you go. Now we can grab this piece and put it on top of the mirror. We're just going to lay it down like so. And this is a lot more self-explanatory, I think. And the way this is going to work is you're going to be tacking here. You're going to seaming the edges right along this line. And after that, we're just going to get the rest of the water out. So to seam, it's very, very similar to it's actually the same way that we seam the fenders. And let's just go ahead and get a nice flat surface right over here. Okay, and the other alignment is going to be right over here in this edge, and I feel like it feels good right now. And you're going to be doing the test, whether it's 2 over the edge, the finger test, the finger roll test. Once you feel comfortable with that, all you have to do is peel that edge. Oops, a little bit too much. Go ahead and spray some tack solution. We're going to go ahead and place that into place. And remember, you don't want this to go over. So this is good that I made this mistake real quick, is that I went over, and I hope you can see this, but I can feel it right here. It's very rough around the edges. So if that happens, that's not a problem. All you have to do is just peel this area again. Oh, it already tried to permanently stick. Okay, we're just gonna do that, and that slip solution actually resets it. We're gonna go ahead and try to do this again. Okay. Awesome. Just slowly. Feel very good about this. And you're just gonna push and get that corner tacked down, okay? Once you get that tacked down, what you're gonna be doing is you're gonna run across this line, and as you push that into the piece A, you're gonna squeegee using that tip. And we're still using the same one, the 2S. So let's go ahead and do that. And if it's not enough slip solution, go ahead and continue to just spray just a little bit right there so you can move it around. So notice how I'm holding with my left hand, I'm pulling it down slightly. And as I'm pulling it down, I'm using that tip and pushing the pieces together. And you can see I'm moving the material towards this. In some areas, what you're going to be doing as you're doing this is feel it with your fingers and making sure that it's not overlapping each other. We're going to go all the way to the end. And this part, no problem. I feel pretty good about this. So this part's tack, and this isn't necessarily tack, but you've squeegeed it, which means that it should start to settle. And the rest of it gets a little bit simpler, making sure your edges should be good, and then just going outwards and getting the rest of the water out. Okay? There you go. And just like the other piece over there, you have some fingers pop up right there where there is a big cut. What you want to do is you want to get Tack solution and spray into that area. Let it settle just a little bit, and you're just going to just gently fold over and let the Tack solution do its job. Awesome. Very happy with that scene. I'm going to go ahead and gently wipe it down. We're going to go ahead and inspect. And one of the things that could happen, I mean, I know we've obviously sealed these edges, but sometimes water can be right here. So just look for bubbles in this area. So I feel pretty good about this, right? We're just making sure that all edges are good and happy. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing we did with piece A. We're going to grab our Tack solution and grab all the edges, especially the seamed area. And we're just going to go through those edges one last time. And again, notice how I did this after, oops. Notice how I did this after inspection. And there you have it. You've got a mirror. And as you can see, this protects in all the front facing parts. So all the rock chips that go here is protected.